leave as much space for the ladies as possible. Thank you for joining us in our third of our three Majlis series in honor of the commemoration of the martyrdom of Imam Ali alayhi salam. Thank you all for your participation, your patience, and your promptness. We'd like to start with the recitation of the Holy Quran by Brother Musa Hassan. Please welcome him with the loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Please recite another loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يحسبون الأحزاب لم يذهبوا وإن يأتي الأحزاب يودوا لو أنهم بادون في الأعراب يسألون عن أنبائكم ولو كانوا فيكم ما قاتلوا إلا قليلا لقد كان لكم في رسول الله أسوة حسنة لمن كان يرجو الله واليوم الآخر وذكر الله كثيرا. ولما رأى المؤمنون الأحزاب قالوا هذا ما وعدنا الله ورسوله وصدق الله ورسوله وما زادهم إلا إيمانا وتسليما. من المؤمنين رجال صدقوا ما عاهدوا الله عليه فمنهم من قضى نحبه ومنهم من ينتظر وما بدلوا تبديلا ليجزي الله الصادقين بصدقهم ويعذب المنافقين إن شاء أو يتوب عليهم إن الله كان غفورا رحيما. إن الله كان غفورا رحيما. صدق الله العلي العظيم.
Jazakallah, Brother Musa, for blessing us with that recitation to start our program. Any brothers that are sitting past that second window, if you could just move forward just a little bit. We have a lot of space by the TV. So with the loud salawat, can I request all the brothers to stand up and move up and to the right as much as possible. Allahumma Salli ala Muhammad. Now I'd like to continue our program with the recitation of poetry in honor of Amir al-Mu'mineen by Brother Muhammad Ibrahim. Please welcome him with Alawat Salawat ala Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad.
Salawat. With bloody eyes stands your Zainab next to you. Your eyes are closed and your face is also blue. You'd gone to pray, but what has happened to you? Tell me, Baba. Tell me, Baba. My brothers weep and Abbas is crying too. But you don't speak to them nor to me, you do. I can see blood gushing from your head and neck. What is that wound? What is that wound? Oh my Baba Ali, why have you left me? I'm standing here to make sure that you see blood in my eyes and what has become of me. Tell me, Baba. Tell me, Baba. You used to open your arms and take me in. If I ever cried or if I ever did lament. But now I'm screaming and you're laying silent. Tell me, Baba. Tell me, Baba. Look, I've dressed your wounds, I have made them dry too. You'll be fine, I know, come and hug me soon. My heart's now racing, why am I in a swoon? Tell me, Baba. Tell me, Baba. Oh my Baba Ali, why have you left me? I'm standing here to make sure that you see blood in my eyes and what has become of me. Tell me, Baba. Tell me, Baba. Now that you're gone, tell me, how can I see you? Come and whisper that I'll be joining you soon. You were my father, but a mother you were too. Tell me, Baba. Tell me, Baba. I can see my mother wailing on you. Her face is white and her eyes are bleeding too. All you've done for them, but how they've treated you. Tell me, Baba. Tell me, Baba. Oh my Baba Ali, why have you left me? I'm standing here to make sure that you see blood in my eyes and what has become of me. Tell me, Baba. Tell me, Baba. Salawat.
Thank you, brother, as always, for your beautiful recitation. A few announcements before we proceed with the speech. And, tomorrow, inshallah, there will be a, after Quran Circle and Iftar, there will be a ladies' majlis as well, concurrently at 5:30 by Sister Zanatola. And then on Saturday night, the main night of Qadr, we have an all-night program, inshallah. Please join us, starting with Quran Circle, dua with Salat, and then after which we will have Amal all night. On Sunday, we have the fundraising table tennis tournament for men. So if you haven't signed up, the sign-up sheet's over here. Please join us, and even as a participant, to help support our school, inshallah. And next Saturday is the last of the 4-part seminar series that we've been blessed to have our Sayyid guide us amongst. And the last series is on Imam Mahdi alayhi salam and his relationship with the Holy Quran. So that one will start at 9 p.m. again next Saturday, March 29th. Please join us for that as well. All week we will continue with our daily iftar program, preceded by Salat and preceded by the Quran Circle. Tonight we do have Amal. It is the night of Qadr in the Green Hall after this program, inshallah, starting around 10 o'clock. So please join us for that. We will have short Amal, as it is a weeknight, and then a longer session for those who are interested in staying. So for all that, please, again, if you have any questions, please come and find us. Also, thank you for your continuous support and helping us clean up and keep things moving along. With a lot of salawat, ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad, I'd like to ask our respected Sayyid to join us at the minbar for the recitation of the Majlis. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Just one other announcement. There is a phone that was found. So if this is your phone or someone in the Urdu hall, had this phone, please find us, inshallah.
Suratul Fatiha. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين بارئ الخلائق أجمعين فاطر السماوات والأرضين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين المبعوث رحمة للعالمين شفيع المذنبين وحبيب قلوب الصادقين سيدنا ومولانا أبي القاسم محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين ولعنة الله على أعدائهم إلى قيام يوم الدين رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي أما بعد فقد قال الله عز وجل في القرآن المجيد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل إن صلاتي ونسكي ومحياي ومماتي لله رب العالمين صلوا على محمد وآل محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته Tonight, as you know, is the eve of the 21st of the month of Ramadan. And this night is one of the nights of Qadr, or of destiny, the night in which Muslims pray to Allah and in which Allah reveals His decree for our coming year and determines and allots both our material and our spiritual sustenance. And so it is a very important night of prayer and repentance. But it is also the night in which we remember and we mourn the loss and the martyrdom of the successor of our Prophet, our first Imam, the commander of the faithful, the leader of the pious, Amir al-Mu'mineen, Imam al-Muttaqeen, Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhim as-salam. If we can request the men to please move forward so that there is room for those who may wish to join. Please come forward reciting salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Conscious of the fact that it is a weeknight, and in addition to the Majlis, many of you also would like to join in the a'mal and the du'as of this night, and you may have limited time if you need to return home in order to prepare for tomorrow. I will try to be as concise as possible in remembering some of the things that we learn from Imam Ali and some of the covenants that we make to our Imam, because the way that we remember is not just to speak about his virtues or his life, and not just to shed tears, but also to make a commitment that we will be loyal to his values, that we will follow his commandments, that we will be obedient to him and to the Imams who came after him, because they are the ones who lead us to the path of Islam. They lead us to God, and they lead us on the path that was established by the Prophet of God, Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wa alih. And as we have said in the previous nights, the Quran has given a motto for us, which was the motto taught to and conveyed by our Prophet and lived by our Prophet and Ahlul Bayt, and that is, Inna salati wa nusuki wa mahyaya wa mamati lillahi rabbil alameen. Sometimes we have a compartment of our life that we put our religion and our worship into, and we say that, for example, I will attend Salatul Jum'ah, that is for God. I will attend Majalis in Muharram. I will stop doing some of those things that I might do in the rest of the year, maybe some entertainment and some time that I spend here and there or that I waste, and I will attend a Majlis, for example, every day, especially in the first 10 nights. I will be a little bit more careful of what I watch, what I listen to, what I say, in honor of Imam Hussein. Or in the month of Ramadan, many of us, we recite more Quran and we attend our masjids and our community gathering places for worship and for socialization more than maybe the rest of the year. For us to have peak periods where we do more than we do at other times in the year is good. But that should be for us to raise our standard, our knowledge, our capacity for doing good, so that our baseline is increased and that we are fulfilling our obligation and that we are moving closer to Allah in the rest of the year as well. Unfortunately, sometimes we have those peak periods, but then afterwards we fall below the baseline of what is required by Allah, and we fall below the baseline of what is needed for our continual spiritual development. And so it's like a person who is overweight or in poor health, and they say that, I need to go on a diet. And they go on a diet, and they come back to their ideal weight, and they're happy, and they say, I've accomplished what I need to do, and now I can splurge and do all of those things and eat all of those things that I was careful about for the last few months or the last few weeks. What happens after they let down their guard? Maybe they're going to be as bad off as they were before. Maybe they'll actually gain additional weight and end up in worse health than they were before. So we don't want our month of Ramadan or our remembrance of Ahlul Bayt to be like that, where, alhamdulillah, today we have just the minimum extra room that you could imagine. We are at capacity or maybe beyond capacity. And that is beautiful. That is a sign of a growing community and a healthy community. But it shouldn't be that on other days we wonder, where did everyone go? And where did everyone disappear to? Even when there isn't a peak day of grief or of commemoration or a day when all Muslims gather, we should still feel an obligation and a connection to our faith and to our community, and an obligation to offer ourselves and our lives and whatever resources and abilities we have in the service of Islam and the path of Muhammad wa ali Muhammad alayhimus salatu wassalam. Sallu ala Muhammad. And before I move on, maybe this is one of the wisdoms of the way in which Allah has decreed our schedule in the month of Ramadan. Normally you would think that Laylatul Qadr, it should build up, and you want to have that peak period as close as possible to the end of the month, so that you can build up your du'as and your sincerity and your practice and maybe your fluency if you are just becoming reacquainted with reciting the Quran and fluency of the Quran. And so if we had been asked, maybe we would say, put Laylatul Qadr on the 29th night, or put it on the 27th night. And all of those nights, they have a certain importance. This is not a Sunni or a Shia issue. Laylatul Qadr is one of the odd nights in the last 10 days of the month of Ramadan. And all of those nights, according to the teachings of Ahlul Bayt and according to the belief of Shia Muslims, they also have an importance. So we can't say that, the 25th night or the 27th night or the 29th night, they are not important for extra worship beyond what we would do on other nights. But the 3 nights that have the greatest importance are the 19th, which is past, the 21st, which is tonight, and the 23rd, which inshallah 2 nights from now, may Allah give all of us the ability and the tawfiq and the divine grace to be present for and to benefit from. That comes well before the end of the month. If we had a few more nights, we could have prepared better, we could have practiced more. And this is how people often, they prepare for tests. If I know that I have a major test in 2 weeks, then I am cramming and I am studying and I am stressing and I am readying myself right up until the last moment. But all of you have had those tests, and all of you have probably studied in a kind of focused and maybe even desperate manner what happens 2 days after the test. You've often not opened the book once, and maybe you've even started forgetting, or you're well on the process of forgetting all or most of what you have studied. And when we have a peak period of worship that is, yes, in the last part of the month, but not at the very end of the month, it gives us an opportunity. I don't want to say to, you warm up and then you cool down, but something along the lines of a period now from that peak to establish a new baseline. And that baseline is what we want to maintain during the month of Ramadan after Laylatul Qadr, so it becomes a legacy of this month for the rest of the year. And that is what I would like us to look at in the context of the life of our first Imam, Amir al-Mu'mineen, Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhim as-salam today. The legacy that we learn from him and the legacy that we want to leave in our life and after our life. If you look back at the verse of Quran, قُلْ إِنَّ صَلَاتِي وَنُسُكِي وَمَحْيَايَ وَمَمَاتِي لِلَّهِ رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ. There are 4 things that are said to be dedicated to Allah. The Prophet is told, and by extension, each and every one of us, we are inspired to dedicate these 4 things for Allah, the Lord of the worlds. 3 of them are straightforward, and they may not need a whole lot of contemplation to understand. But one of them is not quite as straightforward. Salat and nusuk, well, if you believe in only one God, then of course your prayer, your supplication, your worship, your ritual, your devotion, this is, of course, is going to be for Allah. And so it doesn't take a whole lot of contemplation. It isn't a major leap for us to say that my prayer and my worship should belong to Allah. So salat and nusuk, that makes sense. I will go for Hajj, I will go for Umrah, I will go for ziyarat for those people who are the representatives of Allah and whose lives and whose visitation connects me to Allah and reminds me of Allah. But I am not going to go and visit the shrine or the temple of an idol or any other ritual or any other worship that does not belong to Allah and that is not commanded by Allah and that does not connect me to Allah. This is straightforward. وَمَحْيَايَ is also easy for us to understand. It might be difficult to practice, but of course this life is a gift from Allah. So for me to say that I want to aspire at the very least and put an effort into devoting my entire life to Allah, that is also straightforward. Where did I get my life? Every breath, every drink of water that I take to sustain myself, every morsel of food that I eat to keep myself alive, everything that I have in this world of material blessings, of the safety and the shelter and the opportunities that I have, all of it comes from Allah. And if all of it comes from Allah, then I owe my gratitude to Allah, and so my life should be devoted to Allah. To understand that is straightforward. To practice it is not straightforward. It requires sincerity, it requires humility, it requires continually reminding ourselves and working to serve Allah in our life. But the fact that we owe our life to Allah is something that we can readily understand, and we can put a roadmap that if I am going to earn a livelihood, if I am going to study in order to get a degree, if I am going to decide to get married and establish a family, if I want to buy a house, then these are all decisions that I make in my life. Let me make those decisions in a way that will allow me to serve Allah better, in a way that is pleasing to Allah. So that is all part of making your hayat, your mahya, your life for the sake of Allah. But then the fourth and the last thing is a little bit more difficult. وَمَمَاتِي. How can your death be for the sake of Allah? Because your life is decisions that you make. Your death is not something that is in your hands. At least in Islamic law, we do not have the right to make a decision about our death. That is a trust from Allah, and even if we are suffering, even if we are gravely ill, we have an obligation to preserve that life and that trust to the extent that is humanly possible. Yes, of course, death is true, and Allah will take our life at a time and in a circumstance according to His wisdom. So we don't object to death. We don't flee from death. We are not afraid of death, at least in our ideal and in our aspiration. But we also do not have a right to choose death, because the life does not belong to us. So then the ending of the life or the taking of the life also does not belong to us. So how can your death belong to Allah? Well, one circumstance is if you are called upon to defend Islam, then you are offering your life and you are courting death for the sake of Allah. So when the Muslims went to the battle of Badr, when the Muslims went to the battle of Uhud, or any of the other battles in the time of the Prophet, or any of those legitimate battles that took place after the time of the Prophet, because many of the wars that were fought were not legitimate. But those legitimate battles, like the Battle of Jamal, the Battle of Siffin, the Battle of Nahrawan, the Battle of Karbala, when a mu'min offers himself in defense of the truth and in defense of Islam and in obedience to the Prophet and the successors of the Prophet, then you are giving your life and you are courting death. And that is one way that you give your life and you give your death, you dedicate it to Allah. But then that is not something that Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. That is not something that is universal. There are only certain circumstances when you are called upon, you are required to fight in battle. This is a universal model that every one of us, our life and our death, even the small decisions in our life, they should be for the sake of Allah. So, one way to understand how you can dedicate your death to Allah, even if there is no battlefield that you are required to be present on. Many of us, we may live our lives and we may die of old age, or of sickness at home, in a hospital. Does that mean that that life was for Allah, but that death is not for Allah? One of the ways that we can dedicate both our life and our death for Allah is to prepare and to plan for our legacy to always be something that calls people and points people towards Allah. Because your existence does not come to an end with your death. It is just one stage of your existence. It is just the life of this physical body on this earth that comes to an end. But the soul remains, and the body will be brought back to life, resurrected or recreated, and your existence, it does not come to an end. In order for your death to also be dedicated to Allah, live your life in such a way that you create a legacy that in death you are also serving Allah and preparing others to be better worshippers and servants of Allah. This is something that we learn from Amir al-Mu'mineen, Imam Ali alayhi salatu wassalam. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. And let me give just a few examples that illustrate this point. One is a hadith which was narrated by our fifth Imam, And it is narrated by his companion Abu Hamza al-Thumali, the same companion who also narrated Dua Abi Hamza al-Thumali from Imam Zainul Abidin, which we recite in the month of Ramadan, a very beautiful dua. He was a companion of our 4th, 5th, 6th Imam, and he also saw a portion of the life of our 7th Imam, so he had the blessing by Allah to be alive during the time of 4 Imams. Abu Hamza al-Thumali says that Imam Muhammad Baqir alayhi salam told me, that there was a will that his father Imam Zainul Abidin made when he was on his deathbed. So a very trusted and a very special companion of several of our Imams, one of Ashabus Sir, those companions who received and who were worthy of the secrets and the trust of Ahlul Bayt, whom Ahlul Bayt taught their most precious treasures to, their du'as, their most sublime teachings. He is narrating from Imam Baqir. Imam Baqir says that this is the will of my father, Imam Zainul Abidin, on his deathbed. And Imam Zainul Abidin said that this was the will of my father just before his death. Now, Imam Zainul Abidin had a deathbed, but Imam Hussein did not have a deathbed, because we know the circumstances of his death. It was a martyrdom. And by all worldly calculations, it was chaos. All of the companions of the Imam and all of the dear members of his family, the household of the Prophet, had been martyred. There are some women and children who are orphans now, who are widows now, who are with the Imam. And they are, many of them, wounded, all of them in mourning, all of them in grief. And they are surrounded by tens of thousands of enemy soldiers who have been continuously attacking from morning until the afternoon of Ashura. This is the circumstance of the last moments of the life of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. And Imam Zainul Abidin says, in those circumstances, there was a will that my father made. So once again, Imam Baqir quotes Imam Zainul Abidin on his deathbed. Imam Zainul Abidin quotes Imam Hussein in those difficult circumstances just before his own death, when he is surrounded by the enemy, when the martyrs have already given their sacrifice, when all of that chaos is looming on the horizon and is present in the camp of the Imam and in the land of Karbala. And Imam Zainul Abidin says that my father, Imam Hussein, told me that this was also the will of his father, Amir al-Mu'mineen. So the will that we are speaking of is advice. It is Imam Ali alayhi salam who is establishing a legacy. And before we say what that advice or that will is, it is a reminder that in many cases we think of our legacy as being something material. So there are many people, they say that, I want to save up something so that I can give something material to my children. And if you can do so, we will speak about that. That is a beautiful thing. In fact, it is highly recommended in Islam. Not a legal obligation, although sometimes it does also become a legal obligation. But that is a wonderful thing if you can leave material assets and some resources for your loved ones, your dependents, your children, your family, to better their own material circumstances. But that is not your real legacy. Sometimes people think of it as their name. They want to have something that preserves their name, whether it be a building or maybe an organization or a scholarship They want to have something where their name is going to be present and it can live. But you can have a vibrant legacy with no one being aware of your name. And you can have no legacy with 1,000 buildings and scholarships and organizations bearing your name. It isn't the money that you leave to your family or to charity. It isn't the presence of your name that is going to define your legacy in the first instance. But it is the values that you live by and the values that you pass on after yourself that are going to define your legacy. So the martyrs of Karbala, all of them, they have the greatest legacy. But we don't know all of their names with detail, and about some of them there is a matter of dispute. And there are many others who are buried in unmarked graves, who are unknown even today in the present time, who are defending their faith, who are defending humanity, in reality who are carrying the burden of standing up for truth and justice on behalf of all of humanity. And many of them, no one but their nearest and dearest ones knows their story, knows their name, but they have a legacy that will live until the day of judgment. And there are many other people who may have worldwide fame, and maybe even they are famous for doing good things, but their legacy is not as meaningful and it is not as powerful. What did Imam Ali alayhi salam teach to his children? And what did Imam Hussein and that difficult circumstance of Karbala pass on to Imam Zainul Abidin? What did Imam Zainul Abidin on his deathbed pass on to his son Imam Muhammad Baqir? And what did Imam Muhammad Baqir then convey to his trusted companion through whom it reached all of us? Ya bunayya, iyyaka wa dhulma man la yajidu alayka nasiran illallah. My dear child, Imam Ali speaking to his children. Imam Hussein speaking to Imam Zainul Abidin. Imam Zainul Abidin speaking to Imam Muhammad Baqir. See how a legacy is given importance and it is passed on generation to generation. There is no wealth that you can pass on that will last so many generations. No matter what kind of trust, no matter what kind of laws there might be or what kind of contract you draw up. But many of us, we can trace back our belief in Islam across generations. In some cases, maybe it is a few generations. In some cases, it may be centuries. Maybe some of us, it goes back even further. That legacy of faith, it can last far longer and it can give far more benefit even in this world than any material legacy, even if you have billions. Even if you are the monarch of an empire or a great kingdom. Imam Ali says that, oh my dear son, Iyaka, beware, وَالظُّلْمَ مَنْ لَا يَجِدُ عَلَيْكَ نَاصِرًا إِلَّا اللَّهِ, of oppressing anyone who does not have anyone to support them but God. Now that's a very beautiful will, but before we look at what the will means, it is the continuity of that will and the way in which Imam Ali ensured that it will be passed on such that it reached us. If Imam Ali had just said it on his deathbed, there are many people, some of you may have experience among your acquaintances, friends, or even family members, they don't live their life in a pious manner. But when they grow old, they start to think about the hereafter. Then they say, I wish my family were more religious. I wish my children would come to the masjid more often. I wish that, we had a different dynamic within our family. They might make a similar will on their deathbed or in their final months or even in their final years. But because the entirety of their life was such that it didn't prepare their children to carry on that legacy, even if they were to say that I have a wish, I have a will that you live a life of faith, that you serve Allah, that you pray, that you fast, that you don't commit injustice, that you don't oppress anyone, it is not going to be effective. So it is not on the deathbed that we should search for the beauty and the wisdom of the will of Imam Ali, but the fact that on the deathbed he was merely reminding and reinforcing a lesson that he had taught his children, his family, Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein, and all of those who were near and dear to him through his own life and through his own actions and through his own words, such that when it came to his deathbed and he reminded them of this divine principle, they were already aware of what was the value system of their father, what was the legacy of their father, and they were already prepared to listen and remember and live and pass on that important instruction of Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salatu wassalam. And what is that will? Don't show injustice, don't commit an injustice against anyone who has no defender. Now, normally, we think the least about people who are vulnerable. Sometimes children, sometimes people who may have special needs, they suffer the brunt of the oppression or the abuse of others because they can't defend themselves. They can't punch back. They can't speak up for themselves. And so what Imam Ali is saying is that the value system of Islam and the teaching of Ahlul Bayt is that if there is somebody who cannot speak up and cannot defend him or herself, that is the person that you should be the most concerned about not oppressing. Because if somebody can speak up, then they might get their revenge. And then maybe they'll sue you, maybe they'll try to take their revenge in this world, and the account will be settled in this world. But if there is somebody who cannot defend themselves, then they do have an advocate, and it isn't a public defender. It isn't a government organization for whom they are just a number and a file. Their defender and their advocate is the one who created them and the one who sustains them, and that is Allah. And so if somebody is weak or vulnerable or without a voice or without a defender, that is the person that I should be the most careful not to hurt, not to be unkind to. And if I make sure that I am never unkind to somebody who is weak and defenseless, then of course I will never show injustice or I will never oppress somebody who can take revenge. Because once I have trained myself that if I'm not being recorded, if there is no chance that I am going to suffer the consequences in this world, I am conscious of Allah, then any other circumstance where even the worldly harm is more present and the risk is greater, I will be even more conscious and even more ready not to do injustice. So Imam Ali, we have a will that he made for his children and for all of us on his deathbed. It is a spiritual will, a will of values and principles and the highest standard of character. For those of us who would like to study more, Nahj al-Balagha mentions a number of wills of Imam Ali. And they are not just on his deathbed. One of them is letter number 31 of Nahj al-Balagha. This is the famous will of Imam Ali to his son Imam Hassan. A very comprehensive, a very beautiful document. Letter number 31 of Nahj al-Balagha. And inshallah, all of us should read it. If we are a child, read it as if this is a will from our parents. Because even if our parents are not as eloquent, then Imam Ali is our father, and he is also teaching us how to think of that paternal or that parental relationship. And so read it as a will from your father to yourself. Because if your parents could express themselves as beautifully as Imam Ali, if they are lovers of Imam Ali, this is what they would say. And if not, then Imam Ali himself is your father, and his will is for you just as it was for his own direct children. And that is the one where Imam Ali, he advises his son Imam Hassan to think of his own mortality and to focus on his devotion and sincerity and humility. And then Imam Ali explains how you can prepare for your eternal life and for training your soul. So that is one will. This will was made in the year 36 of Hijrah after the Battle of Siffin. So almost 4 years before the eventual martyrdom of Imam Ali alayhi salam. It shows that Imam Ali, he didn't just think of his will on his deathbed. Because at this time Imam Ali was not sick. He had not yet been struck. But this is the preparation of Imam Ali for his family, for his children, to carry on his values and his legacy. Then there are a number of other wills. One is khutbah number 149 of Nahj al-Balagha, which is addressed to the Muslims as a whole. This is the one in which Imam Ali very beautifully says, أنا بالأمس صاحبكم وأنا اليوم عبرة لكم وغدا مفارقكم غفر الله لي ولكم. The Imam, he has a will and a message for his companions. He said, أنا بالأمس صاحبكم. Until yesterday, I was your companion. In Kufa, I was with you. I would pray with you. I would eat with you. You would see me. You would benefit from me, and I would have your company, and you would have my company. وَأَنَا الْيَوْمَ عِبْرَةٌ لَكُمْ. This is after he had been struck by Ibn Muljam, and he invited his companions to come and be present with him. He said, today I am just a lesson for you, a lesson, a moral, a reminder of what? Of mortality. But Imam Ali, although he could never be defeated in battle, but he too is mortal. And death is true for even Imam Ali, even for Prophet Muhammad, even for Fatima Zahra, even for the most beloved of God's creation. Imam Ali says, look at me today. I lived my life in service of Allah, in service of the Prophet, in service of Islam, and today I am an ibrah, and I am a lesson and a reminder for you that even the best of human beings do not live eternally in this world. وَغَدًا مُفَارِقُكُمْ. Tomorrow I will depart this world, and I will no longer be alive. غَفَرَ اللَّهُ لِي وَلَكُمْ. May Allah forgive me and forgive all of you. This is one of those messages that Imam Ali gave to the generality of his companions and his followers that they carried in their hearts and passed on to future generations. So, sermon number 149. Letter number 31, which is a letter to Imam Hassan. Then letter number 23. And letter number 47 of Nahj al-Balagha. These are just reminders so that in our own time we can look and we can read and we can benefit not just from one or two instances, but from the entirety of the message of Imam Ali, because this is not just his legacy, it is his training of us to think about what should be our legacy and what should be the message that we want to pass on to our children and to our families. Letter number 47 is the famous letter addressed in the dual form to Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein. Kuna lil-zalimi khasman wa lil-mazlumi auna. Always be an opponent and an enemy of those who are unjust, and always be an aid and a helper for those who are oppressed. أوصيكما وجميع ولدي وأهلي ومن بلغه كتابي بتقوى الله ونظم أمركم وصلاح ذات بينكم. This is just a portion of that wasiyah, that I advise you, my two sons, Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein, and all of my children, which would include his daughters Zainab bin Kulthum, Muhammad ibn Hanafiya, Abbas, Abu al-Fadl, and the other children of Imam Ali, Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein in particular, because they were his oldest sons. And they were not just the sons and the heirs of Imam Ali, but they were the sons and the heirs of the Prophet of Islam and of the message of Islam. So he mentions them specifically, Usikuma. And then وَجَمِيعَ وَلَدِي. This will, it also belongs to all of my children, sons and daughters. وَأَهْلِي. And all of my family members, Abdullah ibn Ja'far, and the nephews and the nieces, the children of Ja'far al-Tayyar and Aqil ibn Abdul Muttalib, and the family members, the Ahl of Imam Ali. وَمَنْ بَلَغَهُ كِتَابِي. And that is where Imam Ali is making this will directly to you and to me. Letter number 47. We don't have to think of it as an indirect message through the children of the Imam to us, but rather we are being directly addressed, because this will of the Imam has reached us. And so we are its direct recipients and addressees. Be an opponent of the unjust. Be an assistant and an aid to those who are oppressed. And I advise you, children, family, and all who hear these words, بِتَقْوَى اللَّهِ. Number one, be pious and remember Allah. وَنَظْمِ أَمْرِكُمْ. And organize your affairs and live with purpose and with planning, and not just spontaneously and impulsively and day to day. Build a legacy. Build for your future and the future of your family and the future of your community with deliberation and with consultation and with care. That doesn't mean that your plans are ever going to work out as you intended. It is the same Imam Ali who says, عَرَفْتُ رَبِّي بِفَسْخِ الْعَزَائِمْ وَنَقْضِ الْهِمَمْ وَحَلِّ الْعُقُودِ. Plans change, because Allah is the one who is the best of planners, and He is the one who will bring us to the destination that He has in store. But that doesn't mean that we are passive and we are not deliberate and careful in making our plans. Allah's decree is what will determine the end and the outcome of our efforts, but that decree will be based on what our efforts are and what our sincerity is. وَصَلَاحِ ذَاتِ بَيْنِكُمْ. And then Imam Ali says that keep your ties close. Don't let believers abandon each other. In this world where there are so many temptations and there is so much sin. Yes, I may not see eye to eye with you on everything. You may not see eye to eye with me on everything. Maybe there are certain things that I am ignorant of and that is frustrating for you. Maybe there are certain things that I have a weakness, or other people, they have a shortcoming, a sin, a weakness. But in the end, we are a community that believes in Allah, that believes in the Prophet, that believes in Ahlul Bayt. We have an heritage and a value system and a shared responsibility that is beyond any of those things that may differ amongst us, or that may separate us, or that may frustrate us about each other. So Imam Ali says, وَصَلَاحِ ذَاتِ بَيْنِكُمْ. Keep your relationships close. And if there is some corruption that comes in, then reform it and fix it and make those relationships better. So if I see that there are two believers that are growing apart, don't say, well, that's their business. See if there is a way for me to bring their hearts closer together. Maybe I can invite both of those family members to my place and reconnect them. Maybe I can offer some counsel. Maybe I can put in a good word. Maybe I can, either through advice or through my presence or whatever I am able to do, that is salahu dhatil bayn, reforming and bringing together relationships and keeping them strong. So you see, in Nahj al-Balagha we have numerous examples of the will of Imam Ali. This is one dimension. But then there is another dimension of the material will of Imam Ali. And this is also an important part of Islam. Allah says in the Quran, كُتِبَ عَلَيْكُمْ إِذَا حَضَرَ أَحَدَكُمُ الْمَوْتُ إِن تَرَكَ خَيْرًا الْوَصِيَّةُ لِلْوَالِدَيْنِ وَالْأَقْرَبِينَ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ حَقًّا عَلَى الْمُتَّقِينَ. It is ordained for you that when one of you sees death approaching, if you have wealth that you leave behind you, then make a will for your nearest and dearest ones, your parents, your near relatives. This is حَقًّا عَلَى الْمُتَّقِينَ. It is an obligation for those who are pious. And how does Allah speak about wealth? In taraka khayra. If you leave behind you what is good. Some of us, and we learn from Imam Ali, that you don't value this world. Imam Ali, who said to the world, غُرِّي غَيْرِي, deceive somebody else. I am not a slave of this world, I have divorced this world. Imam Ali, who was the personification of zuhd and asceticism and renunciation of this world, we sometimes think that means that Imam Ali alayhi salam did not care about material wealth and that it was beneath him. I mentioned yesterday one example of how much wealth Imam Ali had and how he was a good steward and manager of that wealth. His zuhd and his renunciation is that he didn't spend it on himself, he spent it on others. But he had, I calculated according to the narration, 100,000 dirhams. That's about $4 million if you, there's no perfect comparison across 14 centuries, but if you compare the approximate value of 10,000 dinars, each dinar about 4 grams or a little bit more than that, so that was perhaps $4 million. Now give or take, but let's say many hundreds of thousands of dollars, the annual income of Imam Ali from agricultural pursuits. Imam Ali was a poor man. Imam Ali did believe in the importance of using material resources, but the difference between him and the others who had grown rich was when they grew rich, you saw it in their houses, and you saw it in their food, and you saw it in their clothing, and you saw it in their luxuries. When Imam Ali grew rich, you saw it in the fact that Medina did not have poor. You saw it in the fact that the orphans of Kufa were taken care of. You saw it in the fact that others became rich and their needs were taken care of. Not that Imam Ali alayhi salam became luxurious in his own food and in his own drink. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad.
On the greatness of Imam Ali, loud salawat.
And many times we see this in families, that there is a transfer of wealth from one generation to another. A windfall comes to maybe people in middle age, and all of a sudden they have an upgrade in life. Now sometimes parents who are religious minded, they look at their kids, they say they're not going to be good stewards. So maybe I should donate my wealth and not pass it on to my next generation. In Islam, you should do what charity you can while you are alive. But Islam wants to see a wealth transfer from parents to children. In fact, Islam has said that you are only allowed to give 1/3 of your wealth as a maximum by bequeathing it, by making a will. 2/3 must go to your heirs. And even 1/3, unless you are wealthy, that is not recommended. If it is going to put your survivors in difficulty, then it is not recommended. The ideal is not that you say that my dependents and my heirs are not going to be good stewards, so what can I do to make sure they have less? The ideal is while you are still alive, prepare them and pass on your values so that what wealth they earn or what wealth they earn from you, they know how to use it not just to serve their own desires and their own pleasures, but they use it to build upon your accomplishments in this world, to build a stronger institution and to strengthen the affairs of Islam, of their family, of their community, of their society, to build better than what we had in the past. Honor that material legacy. And one part of the will of Imam Ali is the sadaqat of Imam Ali, some of which he put Imam Hassan alayhi salam in charge of, some of which he had willed for specific causes. But in Medina and with his wealth, Imam Ali, in addition to his spiritual legacy, he had a material legacy. And what binds the spiritual legacy and the material legacy is the legacy of preparing and training and talking to your family members in order to inform them of what are your values and what are the values that are going to bring them success and salvation, so that whatever they earn and whatever they learn or whatever they accomplish in life, it is put to the use of Islam and for the betterment of their eternal life. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. And that is how Imam Ali, he spent his final moments. He had been struck by a poisoned blow from Ibn Muljam. Initially, Imam Ali alayhi salam, he walked home from the masjid of Kufa, leaning, but still putting his own feet one in front of the other. But it was a poisoned blow. It was decreed that Imam Ali would die a martyr's death, and his beard would be dyed red with his own blood. As the hours passed, the strength began to flow out of the body of Imam Ali. He who had gone to the masjid on the eve or on the dawn of the 19th was no longer able to stand in prayer. And it would be a tragedy for Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein, for Zainab and Kulthum, who had never seen their father pray while sitting down, now to see their father pray while leaning and unable to stand on his own feet, and whispering in a soft voice the words of dhikr and the recitation of the Quran. The color of the face of Imam Ali changed, and as he made his final will, perhaps the voice of Imam Ali was little more than a whisper. It is sometimes said that out of all of those wills, the final will of Imam Ali would be when he called his family together and he said that after me, my son Hussein is to be your Imam. And after Hassan, it is my son Hussein who is going to be your Imam. And then passing on the trust that was given to him by the Prophet, first to Imam Hassan and then to Imam Hussein. How could Imam Ali but not weep, knowing that both Imam Hassan would be martyred and Imam Hussein would be martyred? Here his children and his family are looking at Imam Ali and how he is wounded and on his deathbed, and tears are streaming down their face, and Zainab salamullahi alayha is unable to control her grief. Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas is mourning, and Imam Ali looks at Zainab and he begins to cry. He looks at Imam Hassan and he begins to cry. He looks at Imam Hussein and he breaks down weeping. He looks at Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas and maybe he stretches out his arms weakly to put his hands on the arms of Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas, and he breaks down in tears. How can Imam Ali say to his family that, oh my children, so much and whom you loved so much. Oh Hussein, you stand by my bedside with tears in your eyes. But oh Hussein, how can I imagine how will be your final moments with your body filled with blood and wounds rolling on the sands of Karbala? How is it possible for Imam Ali to contemplate the suffering of his children and the grief of Zainab Kulthum after the event of Karbala? Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون. معتم حسين صلوا على محمد.
You can join me. Huh? Okay, so is it okay to recite something for Imam Hussein? Or sure. Hussein, Hussein. Hussein, Hussein.
Hussein, Hussein.
Hussein, Hussein.
Hussein, Hussein.
Hussein, Hussein.
Hussein, Hussein.
Hussein, Hussein.
Hussein, Hussein.
Hussein, Hussein.
Hussein, Hussein.
Oh, come, let us learn how to live like Ali, to live like Ali and to die like Hussein. Oh, come, let us learn how to live like Ali, to live like Ali and to die like Hussein, to live as a servant of Allah alone, to struggle for justice until you are slain, to live as a servant of Allah alone, to struggle for justice until you are slain. Oh, come, let us learn how to live like Ali, to live like Ali and to die like Hussein. The gate of the city of knowledge, Ali, he learned from Muhammad and showed how to be. The gate of the city of knowledge, Ali, he learned from Muhammad and showed how to be. He learned from Muhammad and showed how to be. He learned from Muhammad and showed how to be. He died protecting that knowledge, Hussein. He died protecting that knowledge, Hussein. So teachings of prophets would not go in vain. Oh, come, let us learn how to live like Ali, to live like Ali and to die like Hussein, to live as a servant of Allah alone, to struggle for justice until you are slain. He gave his zakat in ruku of salah, for such is the bounty of Mushkil Kusha. He gave his zakat in ruku of salah, for such is the bounty of Mushkil Kusha. For such is the bounty of Mushkil Kusha. For such is the bounty of Mushkil Kusha. And quenching the thirst of the army of Hur, and quenching the thirst of the army of Hur, are sons of Ali and the sons of Hussein. Oh, come, let us learn how to live like Ali, to live like Ali and to die like Hussein. So patiently waited the chosen Wasi to keep it united, the community. So patiently waited the chosen Wasi
To keep it united, the community.
To keep it united, the community, with 72 sacrifices and more, with 72 sacrifices and more. Oh, what can we say of the sabr of Hussein? Oh, come, let us learn how to live like Ali, to live like Ali and to die
Like Hussein.
to live as a servant of Allah alone, to struggle for justice.
Until you are slain.
We can never be like Hussein or Ali, so this Ya Ilahi is then our play. We can
Never be like Hussein or Ali. So this Ya Ilahi is then our plea.
So this Ya Ilahi is then our plea. So this Ya Ilahi
Is then our plea.
do grant us the footsteps of Kambar Kumel. Do grant us the footsteps of Kambar Kumel, of Ibn Mudahir and John of Hussein. Oh, come, let us learn how to live like Ali, to live like Ali and to die like Hussein, to live as a servant of Allah alone, to struggle for justice until you are slain. Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein.
Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein. This earth has become orphan. This earth has become orphan. On this day, without you, this earth has become orphan. On this day, without you, this earth has become orphan. Everyone, this earth has become orphan. On this day, without you, this earth has become orphan. This earth has become orphan. Zainab, from your had the shade of Ali taken. On this day, without you, this earth has become orphan. On this day, without you, this earth has become orphan. Today the oceans weep and the wind wails. The sky has fallen and the ground turns pale. On this day, even the strongest mountain shaken. On this day, without you, this earth has become orphan. On this day, without you, this earth has become orphan. Today they silence the peak of eloquence. Today has tested the peak of patience. Today Abbas, the mighty lion, is broken. On this day, without you, this earth has become orphan. On this day, without you, this earth has become orphan. Zainab collapses as Haidar's eyes close. The heavens tremble hearing Zainab's woes. Baba, don't leave me. Baba, I beg you, awaken. On this day, without you, this On this day, without you, this earth has become. Zainab now starts the journey of pain. You will be brought back to Kufa in chains, saying, "Go, Baba, in your city I'm forsaken." On this day, without you, this earth has become orphan. On this day, without you, this earth has become. Only foresaw the death of Hussein and Hassan. With his own death, he felt the death of both his sons. Struck by a sword, and the sword had been poisoned. On this day, without you, this earth has become orphan. On this day, without you, this earth has become orphan. This earth has become orphan. This earth has become orphan. Ya Hussein. Ya Hussein. Ya Hussein. Ya Hussein. Ya Hussein. Ya Hussein.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. We'll be doing ziyarat after the